I'll never forget that fateful Halloween when I was 18, my last one at home before heading off to college. Our house, nestled in the wealthier side of town, was impressive, but our neighbour's house stole the show. The neighbouring mansion, belonging to Mike and Donna, was known for its extravagant holiday decorations, especially during Halloween. While some houses opted for cute and spooky decorations, they went all in on the terrifying stuff: fake graves, bloody body bags, and incredibly realistic fake corpses. People would drive by just to capture the macabre spectacle. Fast forward to Halloween Day, a Friday that year. My dog Bear, who slept in the corner of our dining room, startled me awake around 4 a.m. Something had caught his attention outside. I yelled at him to be quiet, and my mom did the same. Bear stopped barking, but the mystery of what had spooked him lingered. As I drifted back to sleep, I had no idea what was about to unfold. 2 hours later, my alarm went off, signaling the start of my day. I got ready for school, and as my dad stepped out onto the front deck, he suddenly returned, irritated. He accused me of letting Bear leave a mess in front of the house, but I insisted I hadn't. He left in a hurry, leaving me puzzled. When I left for school, an unpleasant odour hung in the air. I now understood what my dad had been talking about, but I couldn't see any dog mess anywhere. The smell persisted throughout the day, and when I got home around 2 p.m, it had grown unbearable. My parents were at work and they asked me to hand out candy to trick-or-treaters. Around 4 to 5 p.m, the first groups of kids and parents began arriving. Every time I opened the door, the foul smell overwhelmed me, and the visitors noticed it too. It wasn't long before one parent mentioned that it was even worse next door. I soon learned to anticipate the doorbell ring because it coincided with groups of people commenting on the horrific stench. At one point, I spotted Mike and Donna outside their house, clearly troubled by the smell as well. I approached them to inquire about it, but it was evident that the source was on their property. The smell emanated from one of their body bag decorations. But it wasn't just a decoration. It was a real, decomposing human corpse. We were all horrified, covering our mouths in disgust. An audience of kids and parents had gathered to witness a gruesome discovery. I immediately called the police, and their front yard transformed into a crime scene. The body was eventually taken away, and the mystery unraveled. I told the police about Bear barking at 4 a.m, possibly at the person who dumped the body there. Mike later informed my dad that the deceased was a local man in his 30s who'd taken his own life. As for why someone had left the body on their property, it remained unclear. We suspected that someone had viewed Mike and Donna as rich snobs who used their extravagant decorations for attention, but the motives of such a sick act were beyond comprehension. This horrifying Halloween night still haunts me, a reminder that darkness can lurk even in the most peaceful places. I'm a 22-year-old woman living all alone in my grandma's old house. It's a place that came into my possession after her passing, mainly because my mum didn't want to sell it and she's not willing to leave her own home. So here I am, spending my first Halloween alone in this eerie house. I contemplated just leaving a bowl of candies on the porch, but I thought that wouldn't be the best way to introduce my new presence in this house. So I decided to stay inside and wait for the trick-or-treaters to come. Halloween that year was on a Sunday, so the little ghouls and goblins started showing up early in the day and continued well into the evening. Many of them asked if my grandma was home, unaware that she'd passed away. I had to explain to them that I'm her granddaughter and now the sole occupant of this old house. Grandma being quite a beloved figure in the neighbourhood, so it didn't surprise me that so many folks inquired about her. Most of the trick-or-treaters were friendly and normal, just kids having fun. However, as the night went on and the clock approached 9, a strange encounter awaited me. There was a voice outside the front door, not a knock or a doorbell ring, just a chilling voice that said, "Trick or treat!" I was in the kitchen, so I would have heard any knocking. I went to see who it was and found a man in an unsettling purple suit and a creepy plastic mask. I couldn't quite figure out his costume, but it was undeniably peculiar. When I asked him about his costume, he didn't respond. We just locked eyes through that eerie mask. I reluctantly dropped 2 pieces of candy into his seemingly empty pillow sack, and he peered into it before looking back at me. I wished him a good night and closed the door. That encounter sent shivers down my spine. He was the last trick-or-treater of the night, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about him. I wondered if he was accompanied by someone, as I assumed he might have special needs. He was clearly a grown man behind the mask. I left the remaining candles on the dining room table and thought Halloween was over, but I was wrong. The following night, at around the same time, I heard a loud "trick or treat" at the front door again, and that same eerie, fake, high-pitched voice. I thought I must have imagined it, but when I checked the peephole, there he was in the same costume, holding an equally empty pillow sack. I didn't open the door. No way. A few minutes later, I heard him shout, "Trick or treat!" again. I turned off the living room lights to signal that I wasn't answering. I retreated upstairs to my room and began watching TV there, hoping to stay out of sight. Then I heard a loud pop at my window, like a rock had been thrown. I muted the TV and, a few seconds later, heard the familiar "trick or treat" again. Panic surged through me. Why was he doing this? I went to the window, lifted it up and looked down. The man in the purple suit and mask was staring back at me. I threatened to call the police, but his response was chilling. He slowly lifted his empty-looking pillow sack as if trying to scare me. Halloween was over, and I was far from amused. I dialed 911, and the police arrived within minutes. They apprehended the man, revealing a creepy 30-something-year-old beneath a mask, and they assured me he will be taken to the station. However, to my disbelief, they released him within 48 hours, and 2 nights later he returned, this time at the backyard door. He never knocked or rang the bell. He just stood there with his empty sack, creepily yelling, "Trick or treat!" I called the police again, and they arrested him once more, but it seemed like they couldn't do much, or didn't care. A week later, the man seemed to vanish before the police arrived after I called 911. Perhaps he'd lost interest, but the thought of him hiding in the bushes, watching me, is utterly disturbing. With Halloween approaching once more, I can't help but feel nervous that he might return. The darkness of that night still lingers, and I can't shake the fear that it might not be over yet. As we delve into our bone-chilling third tale of terror, don't forget to seal your fate by subscribing to this channel. If you relish the spine-tingling horrors we conjure, then you won't want to miss what lurks in the shadows next. Subscribe now to ensure you never escape the clutches of our sinister stories. When I was 10 years old, still in the 5th grade, my friend Alex and I were all set for a night of Halloween thrills. It was our first year being allowed to go trick-or-treating alone, and we were brimming with excitement. My mum had handed us big bags, anticipating a candy haul. The night was a weekend, so we had the luxury of staying out late. We started with some daytime trick-or-treating and returned to my house for a short break. My parents ordered Chinese food for dinner, and Alex decided to stick around. Around 7 or 8 in the evening, we ventured out again for some nighttime trick-or-treating. Our parents wanted us to stay close, and we agreed. However, our adventurous spirits led us down a different, less travelled route. The houses were fewer, and the darkness seemed to deter some from answering their doors. Then we reached an eerie-looking house. We rang the doorbell, and to our surprise, it swung open almost instantly. It was as if the man inside had been eagerly awaiting our arrival. He was a bald man, around 45, with a peculiar gap between his front teeth that drew our attention as he smiled. Right from the start, he was overly friendly, complimenting our costumes and prying into our backgrounds. It was clear he wanted to engage us in conversation, but we were there for one thing only: candy. Then he took a step too far. He invited us inside, claiming he had some amazing Halloween decoration he wanted to show us. It was described as a talking skeleton trapped in a cage, begging to be released. Alex and I exchanged uneasy glances. Going into this stranger's house was out of the question. We politely declined, but he persisted, suggesting we come in and pick out our candy. We refused again, and he finally relented, disappearing inside his house. He returned with some chewy candies wrapped in see-through wrappers, which we accepted with gratitude. As we walked away, we noticed something unsettling. He hadn't closed the door and was watching us intently. Our unease grew. We continued down the sidewalk, but now he was following us at a distance, hands on his hips. We considered running, but there were other people nearby, so we kept our pace steady. We decided to skip the next house and knocked on the door of a house 2 doors down. A woman answered, and we hurriedly explained the creepy encounter 2 doors down. She didn't know him, but advised us to tell our parents once we got home. As we were discussing what to do next, 2 kids our age appeared, heading in the direction of the creepy man's house. We stopped them and recounted our experience. Their faces told us everything. They had experienced the same unnerving situation. They'd also visited his house and received the same candies. We all decided to toss those candies away. After all, who knew what someone like him might do? Our minds raced with questions about his intentions. The next day, the answers came in a shocking way. He'd made the news for attempting to lure kids into his house using different stories, depending on the children's ages. Thankfully, it seemed like everyone had been smart enough not to enter his house. It was a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind a friendly facade, and we were grateful that our instincts had kept us safe that Halloween night. As we near the end of this spine-chilling journey, remember that the darkness of these tales is nothing compared to the void that awaits if you dare to click away. Don't let your curiosity wane. The true horror lies in missing out on more of our nightmarish narratives. Subscribe now and plunge deeper into the abyss with every video we unleash. Your fear awaits.